Many of you are familiar with this book because I talk about it a lot. Don't know if you've read it yet, but it's called Creating a World That Works for All. And Sharif Abdullah had written it. He was from Camden, New Jersey. Fabulous work he and his foundation are doing. He says, we can, right now, with our presently available resources, create a world that works for all. One person acting out of the power of his or her deepest convictions can change the world. Good news! We can change the world. Say, yes, I can. Yes, I can. That's true. It's wonderful. And the reason that we can is that there's a presence and a power within us greater than we are, right where we are. And we use it every time we think, and we use it every time we develop a belief, and we use it every time we act or behave in our world. And when we come together in a conscious, creative community like this one, we work together and we have a greater opening to the access of that divine power that we're ready to use to move things in a greater direction, to move forward with the pace of the divine life that we're ready to experience. We can change the world, but not by ourselves. It is possible, and that's what we get to remember every time we come together. We're moving away from competition. We're moving into cooperation. Yay! Whoever said yay, yay. And some of you know that many years ago, I was talked into, as if anybody could, but I was talked into being a part of the Miss Senior America contest. That's when, I finally did it. It was just like, okay. And it was fun. It was wonderful fun. But what I found out was girls compete with each other, women empower each other. That's what it was all about. We weren't tripping each other when we were going up and down the stairs to go on the stage. We were saying, let me fix this little hem for you right here. Oh my gosh, your legs are fabulous. You had to be 60 or better in order to participate in this. I was much better. And it was a wonderful thing to see. We can cooperate and celebrate each other. Have a good time doing what we love to do it well, being cheered on by the others and cheering them on when it's their turn. I think I shared with you that there was a woman who was 80 and she had made her own little tap dancing outfit, and she tap danced like, oh my gosh, we weren't envious except for her legs. So cooperation, celebration, being delighted about people winning is a wonderful thing. We need to end the competition, and we need to promote cooperation. And we need to get creative and tune in to the creative intelligence of this universe in order to do our part. And we all have a part to do. Eknath Iswaran, some of you know who he is. He was a beautiful Hindu teacher who had come from southern India in the 60s to Berkeley on a Fulbright. And the 60s in Berkeley, remember? Were you there? You didn't remember? And he was so thrilled with these kids that he taught them to meditate. And he stayed. And he was a wonderful professor there at UC Berkeley. He had already become emeritus by the time I was attending there, but one of the people in his community was a professor of mine who introduced me to Eknath Iswaran. And I used to attend his presentations in Petaluma, long drive, but every week, where he would speak to one of the beautiful prophets or sages or saints of very different religions, and then we'd meditate for an hour together. I read many of his books, and in one of them, he tells a true story about a man in India who saw a bear who was caged and was there for entertainment. He lived in a very small cage, and his owner would take him around, have him perform, and that's how he earned his living to feed his family. And this man who saw this happening became incensed that the bear was treated in this way, and then he changed his anger into an energy to make a difference. Isn't that what we get to do where we see things that make us angry? Use the energy of it to make a difference. He understood. He spoke with the man, and he came to understand that this was his livelihood, that his children would not have food and they would not have shelter if he didn't continue this work. The man who was speaking with him happened to be a carpenter. And so he asked permission of the keeper of the bear to build the bear a nice big home rather than this tiny little cage. And he did. And the bear was happier. They continued to do the shows, but that's what the bear did. But he was comfortable now. He became even more popular, and it had a happy ending, and the bear ultimately got to retire. But look what we can do. He had to get creative, didn't he? This man who was upset about the condition of this animal, he couldn't make it completely different, but he made it different enough that the man still got to feed his children and the bear was more comfortable. I see that as an example of what you and I can do in terms of tuning in to our creative intelligence and finding ways to make a difference. Small ways, large ways, but to find that we all have gifts to give. Reverend Mike and I just saw the new Pavarotti film the other night. Beautiful. See it. And here is this man, and I saw him before anybody really knew who he was. He came to a small college in Southern California on this series of they had Alicia de Roca, and they had a lot of other famous people who were becoming famous. And I remember Pavarotti standing up there, opening his mouth, and we all died. And we just lived in his hands and in his heart forevermore. Here's this man with this fabulous gift of his voice who ultimately expanded what he could do in this world to make it a better place. And in the movie you see where, remember the three tenors? Gives you the background because Carreras had been recovering from a very serious cancer, and both Pavarotti and Domingo decided that they wanted to do something to bring his spirits up and let's get him back on the stage again. That was the genesis of the three tenors, and it was fabulous. Then he started pairing up with rock artists, and he got some criticism for that. Too bad. He and Bono became great friends and did some incredible things together, not only to make beautiful, fabulous, interesting music together, but to benefit the children of the world. You have a gift, you give your gift, you do what you came here to do, and then you find ways to have it make a difference in the world. I'm inspired. Are you inspired by these great people who not only must do what they do so well, whether it's making a house, or whether it is singing, or playing the piano, or drums, or Rav, or flute, but giving their gifts and then finding that it really makes a difference. It lifts people's spirits, and then to find other ways to continue making a difference in the world. You know, we have a Center for Spiritual Living in the Ukraine. Barbara Leger has been there for over 10 years, and she recently sent out this fascinating celebration of the 21st century youth. And I know you can't see this, and those on the who are getting the live streaming tomorrow, almost live, next day live tape streaming, you can't see it either, but you can see this later. There are so many young people gathered here, and CSL Ukraine had a big part in building resiliency and cultivating possibility for these young people. They wrote essays about timely topics, and it was a wonderful opportunity for them to come together. They're also ecologically involved. They create Peace Valley. They grow things. This is the 21st century youth team visited Cherkasy Auto Road Lyceum dormitory, where youth and adults met over tea to speak about burning issues for youth, how to find your purpose, to grow self-esteem, to learn to communicate with their friends, and they call them their mates, and with adults even more. There is great work going on all around the world with conscious caring people, and a lot of them involve the Centers for Spiritual Living Communities. Yay! We have small, medium, and large ways to make a difference. This last Sunday in June, we're still speaking about the June theme, which is protect the vulnerable, and we still continue the value for the month, which is empowerment, and let's continue that value for, say, the rest of our lives. Empowering ourselves, empowering, inspiring, lifting other people by that divine presence and power that's within us, that's ours to share. When we're gathering with like-minded people, as we do in this instance right here, we must lift the collective unconscious. That was Jung's phrase, and that was Ernest Holmes' intention. We want to raise the vibration of humanity to greater peace and greater empowerment. See, each of us has unlimited ability. We think we have limitations. The limitations, we sometimes argue for those. We need to stop arguing for our limitations. Well, I'm only this, or I'm only that, or I didn't have enough of that, or I had too much of that. You don't know my history. I don't want to know your history. You know, when Jesus had all those fabulous healings, did he say, did your parents have that? How long have you had it? We're not so interested in that. Don't keep telling me your story. Let's write a new story. Let's use this amazing power we have to create a new story for ourselves and a new dream for the world. We want to dream a new dream for the world. We have unlimited power. It is our interdependence that is the way, of course, isn't it? I recently read, I think it actually came from Aesop, one of his wonderful fables. It is, never look down on another person except for that brief moment when you're extending a hand to raise them up. And that's a wonderful thing. In my very first church center in Alamo, California, there was a young woman who was a student and drove quite a ways to be with us on Sunday mornings and sometimes in our middle week celebrations as well. And she had quite a consciousness of impoverishment. She hadn't yet awakened to the possibility of the infinite abundance that exists for us. And Becky was a dear. She was very serious. She wasn't very effusive. She was worried a lot. But she was a great student. And she played the piano and the organ. And in those days, we had one of each. It was in the 70s. And nothing wrong with that. Organs are good, especially the one in Kimmel Center is pretty nice. And at Longwood, too. So she would sometimes play for us. And I gave her a scholarship to classes. Becky began to get it. She began to, and a lot of people in the congregation were kind to her, not only accepting and loving this beautiful young woman, but also sometimes giving her gas money or taking her to lunch, knowing that she was in process of awakening to her abundance. And she had a little difficulty receiving. You ever met anybody who has a little difficulty receiving? So, but she finally would let it happen, but always with a... In class, she got... In fact, there was one that was, when we were focusing on the infinite abundance of this universe and the joy of circulating it and the fun of giving anonymously. She really got it. And she wound up with a job that worked well with her schooling. She wound up getting an apartment that she was very happy about. She began to experience abundance, and one night she came to class and she was angry. I said, "Becky, what's wrong?" She said, "I had the opportunity to give some people some money, and I didn't know. You never told me how good that was going to feel." We live our principle. We teach our principle. There is enough for everyone, and sometimes we reach down a little bit, not looking down at, but looking down for and lifting up so that we can empower each other to live lives of love and wisdom and creativity and harmony. You didn't tell me it feels so good to help someone else. She was the one, when we were coming up with, in that class, with inventive ideas of giving anonymously, she was the one who came up with going into the grocery store and putting a $5 bill under the leaf of a cabbage. Yeah. So many. Let's get creative. Let's find ways to simply let this circulatory process of giving love, giving compassion, giving abundance, giving understanding, so that it flows. We're priming the pump for it to become increased in our own lives as well. There's an actress named Gillian Anderson. She said, "Be of service. Whether you make yourself available to a friend or coworker, or you make time every month to do volunteer work, there is nothing that harvests more of a feeling of empowerment than being of service to someone in need." Everybody wins then, you see. Everybody wins. This is how we're creating a world that works for all. Divine mind is sufficient for everyone. There is plenty of everything for everyone. There's plenty of water, clean water. I spoke last week of our two ministers who are making sure there's clean water and schooling for girls in Africa and Guatemala and various countries. And Mother Teresa said, you don't have to do great things. Just do small things with great love. Let's have everything that we do for ourselves, for our family, for our friends, for our neighbors, for our coworkers, for perfect strangers. Isn't it nice that strangers can be perfect? Let everything we do be done with great love. We're unlocking our creative possibilities, and we're helping to unlock the creative possibilities of people everywhere, everyone we touch. Divine mind is sufficient for all. The power is already here. Isn't that great? We don't have to go seek it. We don't have to beg for it. We don't have to get on our knees and pray for it. The power is already here. And it lives at the heart of every sentient being. Einstein referred to the delusion of separation. It is a delusion that we're separate from anyone else. And Ernest Holmes said, there's really only one thing to heal. And my beloved Earl D. Barnum, my Barney, echoed that. He says, Maxine, once we heal this one thing, there'll be nothing left to heal. The false belief that we're separate from our source. It's a delusion. We are deluded, all of us. Let's wake up and help each other wake up as well. So the most important thing that we can do for ourselves and for others is to know our unity with the divine and with each other. And to feel that when we're walking down the street and we see someone who is a perfect stranger, to simply feel our divine connection with that person. You and I have the power to influence positively and to change the world. Say, yes, I can. I am alive with the spirit of divine love and infinite wisdom. I'm alive with the spirit of divine love and infinite wisdom. I do my important part to create a world that works for all. Power to the people. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson. Thank you. Thank you.